Now, as we're filming this, Prince Harry is once again at the center of a major high-profile legal battle. This time facing off against Associated News, limited in a case that has been years in the making and feels, in many ways, like the culmination of a much longer and far more personal war. It's no secret never has been that Harry has a deep-seated hostility toward the media. That tension has followed him from his teenage years through his military service, into his marriage, and now into his 40s. So the question naturally arises, at some point does he move on from this? When this case finally ends, does Harry stop rallying against the press, or does this crusade simply continue under a new banner? Personally, I think there comes a point where he has to get on with his life. But listening to the way he's been speaking in court, it's clear that for him this isn't just a legal dispute, it's deeply emotional, almost existential. He talks about wanting to change the media landscape, about correcting wrongs and reshaping a system he believes has harmed him irreparably. And yet, the irony is hard to ignore. The media landscape has already changed beyond recognition over the past 20 years. The world of newspapers, paparazzi, and tabloid power that existed when he was a young man barely resembles what we see today. In that sense, if his aim is to force transformation, he's pounding on a door that's already wide open. But despite that, I don't think he will ever truly let this go. His dislike, his hatred, even of the media is obvious, and many would argue it has only intensified since his marriage. There was a time, and those of us who were there remember it clearly, when Harry's relationship with the press was almost normal, light-hearted even. I remember occasions early on, Sarah will remember them too, like being in Australia, chatting to him casually on the plane during an official visit. There was that pub quiz on one of the islands during a tour where the media were there. Harry had his own team, cheated outrageously, and everyone laughed about it. He was standing at the bar with a drink in hand, relaxed, chatty, very much at ease. That version of Harry understood the media. He knew how it worked. He understood that if he wanted a global profile, and especially if he wanted to monetize that profile, then the media were not optional, they were essential. He knew you can't have fame, influence, and commercial success without exposure, but will he ever stop hating them? No, probably not. Because at the core of all of this sits one unmovable belief, that the media killed his mother, and until that belief is resolved in his own mind, this conflict will never truly end. Still, if he wants a stable life and a sustainable public role, there has to be a point where he moves forward rather than endlessly looking back. This particular trial is enormous. It's expected to last 9 weeks and is estimated to cost around £39 million. At its heart are allegations of illegal news-gathering practices, claims that Associated newspapers strongly deny. So why does this matter so much to Harry? Why now? He's described this battle repeatedly over the years as his life's work, a personal mission to hold the press accountable and to fundamentally reshape how the media operates. He's spoken openly about the paranoia he says he experienced, the damage done to his relationships, the erosion of trust, the sense that he was constantly under siege. This case is the last of his privacy actions against newspaper groups, and arguably the most significant. The stakes are extraordinarily high. He's sitting in court alongside fellow claimants like Liz Hurley, Elton John, and David Furnish, names that ensure wall-to-wall coverage and underline just how high-profile this all is. Harry is the star witness, and crucially, he's one of the few people with the financial resources to see something like this through to the bitter end. For him, this isn't just another lawsuit, it's the final chapter in a long legal saga that has dominated much of his adult life, and this is happening alongside his ongoing fight over security. That battle with the Home Office has dragged on for years. He lost his case last year, but now he's seeking a review. And he remains optimistic that the Home Secretary will ultimately grant him the level of protection he believes he needs when he returns to the UK. He said openly that if security is resolved, he'll bring his family back, that the grandchildren will come to see their grandfather. Once all of this is settled, some believe it could open the door to more meetings with his father, the king. What's striking, though, is how carefully the royal family have kept their distance while these cases are ongoing. There's an expectation that we could hear a decision this month regarding the security review, though it may not be announced publicly for obvious reasons. Still, it may become clear during the course of this trial whether Harry will be granted taxpayer-funded armed protection. Colleagues who have been in court say that at the moment, there are only 1 or 2 security guards present with him inside. The security question is where opinion becomes deeply divided. Harry left his role, he chose a different life, and many feel he must live with the consequences. His father warned him about this. The argument goes, he made his bed, now he must lie in it. And yet there's another layer to this. Someone of Harry's profile cannot simply arrange security in the same way as a private citizen. The liaison with intelligence services, the coordination at the highest levels, that's not something you can just pay for. He tried and he was told it couldn't be done. And while many agree he shouldn't have automatic protection, there's a nagging concern that won't go away. We've been here before. Diana lost her security by her own choice, and she died after being exposed to inadequate protection. Many who covered that period still feel the system failed her. Harry is the son of the king. He didn't choose that status, he was born into it. He's also a former soldier who served in Afghanistan and openly wrote about his kill count in his book, which alone raises his risk profile. So while critics are right to say this is his problem, there's a lingering fear that if something were to happen to him, people would look back and ask why it wasn't prevented for what, in government terms, is a relatively small sum. No one genuinely wants harm to come to Harry. Even those most critical acknowledge that when he's in the UK, some level of protection is provided. Online, the abuse can be brutal, and while some understand where that anger comes from, others feel uncomfortable with how loud and hostile it has become. After all, there are ministers and former prime ministers, people many couldn't name, who receive lifelong protection. Harry is the son of the king. Politically, it's a hard sell to a public facing cuts and hardship, especially when he lives in California. But risk isn't about popularity, it's about profile, and his is undeniably high. Still, the rules are the rules. He's no longer a working royal, no longer based in the UK, and under those criteria he doesn't qualify. What he's asking for now is a review. And as has been pointed out, he should be careful what he wishes for. If he loses again, what then? He simply doesn't come back. And many online would say, good, but there's another issue at play here. Harry is in court, giving evidence over stories written 10, 15, even 20 years ago, while simultaneously campaigning to have his security reinstated. To many, this reinforces the perception that he's stuck in the past, constantly revisiting old grievances rather than moving forward. And yes, without doubt, he does come across as a moaner. His book Spare is, for many readers, one long complaint. He lives in a bubble. There's almost a sense that he's uncomfortable with being the star witness again, embarrassed by the attention, yet unable to escape it. A lot of people are simply tired of him. The criticism of his family in Spare particularly turned many against him, and yet, and this is important, there are still moments when we see flashes of the old Harry. When he came back last September, public reaction was warmer than many expected. At events like the Well-Child Awards or the Invictus Games, we glimpse the relaxed, engaged figure who was once a tremendous asset to the royal family. There is still affection for him, still sympathy, even among those who don't agree with his actions. Maybe not a lot of people, as some would argue, but enough to matter. The idea of an old Harry, though, is complicated. He's not a carefree 20-year-old anymore. He's over 40, a husband, a father. At some point, maturity has to show. The relentless attacks on his father and family feel, to many, unacceptable. Every visit to London seems to bring drama. Some of that is media-driven, yes, but not all of it. William in particular appears to have had enough. The endless cycle of grievance, reconciliation talk, and then fresh revelations, it's exhausting. Parenting is hard, life is hard. And perhaps that's the reality Harry still struggles to fully accept. What happens next may hinge on how he behaves once this trial ends. Does he keep his head down? Does he avoid interviews? Does he allow space for trust to rebuild? Because the fundamental problem between Harry and his father and the wider family is trust. Every time he says he wants reconciliation, more information comes out, more details, more accusations, and you cannot rebuild a relationship on that foundation. Yes, there have been meetings too, by most accounts brief and cautious. Better than nothing, some say, but hardly a breakthrough. The king is a father and that matters. Gifts have been exchanged. There have been gestures, but Camilla and William, both heavily criticized in Spare, remain deeply wary. Letting Harry back in comes with risks. No one is pretending this would be easy. But at the heart of all this, beneath the lawsuits, the security rows, the media battles, there is still, undeniably, a father and a son. And that, ultimately, is the story that